Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So inshallah we're going to be speaking about Ayah 34 from Surah An-Nisa. This Ayah, and I'll be speaking about also the Ayah that comes after, and the other Ayah that deals with an-nushuz, the nushuz from a man. In fact, in that Ayah there, it was nushuz and indefinite. In this Ayah, the nushuz is mudaf to the dhamir, hunna. I've divided it up into 4 parts. The first part is what is spoken about when it speaks about Rijal. The second part speaks about the wife. And then the red part speaks about when there is nushuz happening. And I'll explain what nushuz is. And then we have the ending of the ayah, in Allah kana aliyan kabira. We'll show you how that is relevant to the rest of the ayah. Allah SWT uses the word Rijal. Why did he not use a different word? So Rijal is used appropriately here. It's a word in the Quran. We find it being used for those who, for example, fulfill the covenant of Allah SWT. Those who trade and buying and selling does not distract them from the remembrance of Allah SWT. So the Rijal actually are those who fulfill the obligations. So it's appropriately used in this section because it's talking about the gender roles of the man first and then the woman. So in marriage, Allah SWT has actually specified certain roles that have to be fulfilled. And anything other than this will cause problems, major problems in the marriage. So it says here, الرجال قوامون على النساء. So it says here that the translation of it are, the men are maintainers of women. So the word qawwam, it's from the pattern of sighatul mubalagha, which is a intensive form of the ism fa'il, or a hyperbole form. And it signifies somebody that does qiyam, a lot of maintaining all the time. That's his job, he's maintaining. And this is speaking of the role of the man upon the woman. Ala, this harf jar, ala, it's used to indicate a responsibility of the rijal over an-nisa. And their responsibility is to maintain and take care of women. What is it that allows them to have this role? Allah defines it. So it doesn't just say, men do this, but Allah actually explains what is the reason. It says, بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. With what Allah has given to some over others. So in this, I'll explain this construction, بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. It's very interesting. There's some linguistic aspects to this that are quite interesting. But before I speak about that, here it's just, it's saying that there is some preference that man has been given to maintain this role of being the qawwam, the one who maintains and takes care of. Now it didn't say, if you notice, it didn't say بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ الرِّجَالُ عَلَى النِّسَاء. Sorry, الرِّجَالَ عَلَى النِّسَاء. He didn't say that, did he? He didn't say because of what Allah has preferred of men over women. He actually says, بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. And this hum here could include both the man and the woman. So when you use the masculine pronoun, it could refer to both. Like for example, we talk about the al-mu'minun. Al-mu'minun could be also referred to the al-mu'minat as well. That is talking about both men and women, based on the context. Now, so here, بعضهم could refer both to men and women, and على بعض. So the students should know, those who have studied the more advanced grammar, that this is what is known as tanween al-iwad, which takes the place, this tanween takes the place of a hidden pronoun. And this hidden pronoun could be either masculine or feminine, depending on who is the one that's being preferred. And this actually gives the meaning of that Allah has preferred, in some aspects, men over women, and in other aspects, women over men, has that meaning. And also, bima anfaqu min amwalihim, and being from what he spends out of his wealth, or their wealth. So spending as well. That's the role of the man. The man is the one who spends on the house. And we know women these days, that there are many women that work and they spend on their house. And they help the husband. Allah's not saying anything about that. But all it's saying is that the man is obligated to do this. It's his role. And if he doesn't do this role, it's considered nushuz, by not spending on the house. If he gets the female to do all the spending, this is considered nushuz. And I'll explain nushuz as well. This is very important. Okay, now what's interesting actually, after he defines the role of the man, so this is his obligation. So, for example, when you work in a company, for example, you're given a contract. That contract has your role, what you're supposed to be doing. And if you don't fulfill that, then you might go on probation, maybe you get a warning, and so on. This is what you're supposed to be doing. On that point, we look at the section where it speaks about women. It begins with fa, فَالصَّالِحَاتُ, fa. So this comes, it wasn't was salihat, so it wasn't just, full stop, that's the main, was salihat, and so on. فَالصَّالِحَاتُ. So it actually indicates that this follows on from a Rijal, meaning that it's both components. You need both of them. This is what it mentions there, the meaning behind that. So فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهِ. So notice here, it didn't say النساء, it says فَالصَّالِحَات. It wasn't just nisa. So here it's defining the ideal wife. It defines the woman as a salihah. She's a salihah. In other words, here should be considered a rectifier, one who rectifies. So a woman who makes things better, who actually makes herself better and makes her husband better. So that's one of the meanings there for as-salihat. When we talk about actions that will get us to Jannah, it's mentioned throughout the Quran. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. What are salihat? Allah didn't say وَعَمِلُوا الْحَسَنَات. He didn't mention hasanat. Hasanat are just good deeds. Salihat actually are much greater in the sight of Allah SWT. As-salihat are those things that rectify oneself and those around them. So, as an example, somebody could pray. He could get some hasanat for it. If he has concentration in it, he remembers Allah. But the prayer, which is known as, if it's considered amal salih, it would be one that would rectify him internally, purify his heart, make him abstain from what is evil. And that's salih. So a salih is somebody who rectifies himself and rectifies those around him. And this should be the the mindset of a wife. And a man, he's the maintainer, even her spiritual maintenance. So it's a two-way relationship. One feeds off the other. So فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ. So it says that the righteous are truly devout to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They follow what Allah commands them to do the best they can. So it's talking about her obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before it talks about the obligation of her to her husband. So this is something that women should always put in the back of their mind, is that I'm dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before I'm dealing with my husband. قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهِ. They are guarding what Allah has ordained for them to guard. بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهِ. And what does it mean by بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهِ? بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهِ فِي الشَّرِيعَةِ. What he has obligated for a woman to preserve, she's to preserve this in the absence of the man. The man's not going to be there all the time, and she's required to, this is an obligation, to preserve that which Allah has ordained to preserve. So what are we talking about? We're talking about things like preserving, obviously, herself, the wealth of the man. She doesn't squander it, for example. She preserves the husband's reputation and the secrets in the household. There's things that shouldn't be, should be left in the house. Actually, most things, unless it's very serious, should be left in the household. Going around and telling your family, your mother, your father, your best friend, this is not a good way. There's certain things that you shouldn't mention to anybody, especially when it comes to personal matters and things like that. And interestingly, this is what a salihah does, and we know that there's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that a person who is guaranteed Jannah is an obedient wife who fulfills her obligations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and whose husband is pleased with her. And now this next part, this is the part we want to speak about. I will probably end this lesson now and speak about it in the next lesson. Okay, wa sallallahu sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.